and welcome back to the First Strike North America Closed Qualifiers, presented to you by Nerd Street Gamers. We are one map down in this group stage match even between Sentinels and Dignitas, and with me, as you can see, are your casters, I Hold Shift and Avril. Guys, Dignitas took Sentinels to overtime. I mean, actually, it's the other way around. Sentinels took Dignitas to overtime. I don't think anyone or many people were expecting this scenario going into this matchup. Now, Shift, if you were Sentinels right now, how satisfied or unsatisfied would you be with that victory?
You're happy to get the win. You know, you would rather have an ugly win than a convincing loss in any way, in shape or form. Obviously, it's just that's the way it goes. But it's kind of a tough question to answer because overall, that was going to be a pretty dicey map, I think, for this full 3-set series. Bind is a map that if we get to map 3, Sentinels are going to feel very confident on, but so will Dignitas. So the fact that you were able to pull back after a pretty shaky first half and then some really wonky moments in the second to send it to an overtime and then just go back-to-back to close things up cleanly, yeah, you're going to love the momentum that you're feeling, especially considering how things just ended in that previous map.
And conversely as well, I don't think you feel bad if you're Dignitas, you come 12 and 14. You feel bad in the sense that you did get towards map point, you couldn't quite clean it up, but maybe towards me, I kind of slipped on Dig a little bit here, so yeah, I kind of feel bad that I didn't expect them to do this well, but at the same time, super impressed with what we've seen so far. I think their defense kind of let them down a little bit. You can look towards the fact that Sentinels got a lot of spike detonations there, even when Dignitas did win defensive rounds, they had to defuse 3 times, so what we do get out of that is a Sentinels got to plant a lot on their offense, so Dignitas need to shore up on their defense a little bit. So despite feeling decent about how Haven went, all things considered, now moving into Split, we've had a conversation already about the fact that Dig haven't really played Split, so that might still be something that plagues them.
Well, just looking at the way Dignitas played in that last game, Sam was on the Reyna, and I did a bit of research because I seem to remember him playing Reyna at some point, but he hasn't played Reyna officially since July. He played 1 game of Reyna back in July. He's now sort of back on it now. Of course, they have to accommodate for their new members, and they need that transition period. They need a bit of time to get their stuff together, but they did seem quite organized in the ways that they played around that map. And as you guys mentioned, Split might be a different story. Shift, what realistically would Dignitas need to do on this map to make sure they claw one back?
Well, I'm going to kind of bridge a gap between the post-game of Map 1 going into the initial of Map 2 here. The fact of the matter is that was the first time on Haven that we've seen Dignitas try to pull out the Killjoy, and it was not successful for them, really, in any stretch of the imagination. 7 and 21 for Death. This is coming off the last week where he was holding a 1.08 KD playing Cypher. So that's kind of what I'm looking for initially here. As we look towards Split, like we mentioned, we have not seen this Dignitas play Split really much at all. Even back during the Ignition series, they barely touched it. But one thing we do know is that they definitely prefer to use the Cypher. So that's really where I'm looking forward, is to get Def more involved and maybe playing a Sentinel he's more comfortable with.
Well, before I pass over to you guys, I do want to get your take as well. Avril, what do you think Dignitas need to do to turn this around?
I'm going to look towards Maka and Sam here because I'm a little bit curious about how they're going to use the operators, or rather how they're going to play around the agents here. Maka has been playing both Phoenix and Breach. Do they bring the Breach back for a map like this? I don't believe either team are going to go for the Sova here. So what does Sam play? Is Sam going to go towards something more like a Raze? I think, Sam moving away from Sova has been quite interesting. I want to see if he can continue that performance. Odorous as well, and the Jet will probably make a return here. So looking towards Sam and Odorous probably being the big playmakers.
Yes, of course, this is going to be quite an interesting matchup, and I feel like almost a historical moment because, like you guys said, we haven't seen this Dignitas roster play Split yet. Now, everyone in stream, I am going to leave you in the safe hands of our casters, Shift and Avril.
Safe hands, goodness, I didn't realize we were that trusted, Avril. Do they realize what kind of hijinks and hilarity we get into?
What kind of hands you got?
We'll find out
they ain't
pretty
safe.
quickly.
You got dangerous hands?
Here's another interesting tidbit, though, before we jump into this map. We talked about it just briefly in the pre-match showcase when we were talking about this Sentinel squad as we take a look back at the stats from that first map overall. It came down to Sick. How well was he going to be able to play, swapping away from what was the mainstay Sage now into a trusted secondary duelist? He played well. But the interesting thing going from last map into this one is that Sentinels will still play Sage on Split, at least as what we saw last weekend. They will still play the Sage, so I'm interested as well, I think, from Sentinel's standpoint, to see if Sick can still participate at the same level that he just did on the Phoenix on Haven.
And I think for Sinatra as well, he'll be moving over towards the Rays. Again, don't expect either team to be bringing out the Sova here. What I find quite interesting about the Dignitas lineup is that Sam has moved away from the Sova in favor of Maka being on that one, even though looking towards some of the other maps, I mean, it's been a bit 50-50. I think Sam actually does play Sova on like a bind, but then he brings the Reyna out on the Haven map that we just saw, and likely Sam is going to be playing something more like a Rays, because I expect Maka to go towards the Breach, as I mentioned, you know, when we're talking with the Insu. So this team is still kind of shifting stuff around. You talked about Def between Killjoy and Cypher as well. Def obviously didn't have a great performance there. 721 is not ideal. Def was also left alone quite a few times on what ended up being pretty critical rounds, where, again, number 24 there, Def by himself. You had Dignitas gambling heavily towards C, and then ends up being a free A take for Sentinels. So plenty of times there. Unfortunately, Def is not able to hold on the lockdown, not getting full value. Sometimes getting destroyed onto Haven C. So we'll have to see what Def brings to the table here for Split.
And you have to figure it's going to be a Cypher. It just comes down to, can he up his performance no matter what he's playing on? I think at the end of the day, as we get our little blow-by of what Split is going to look like. Again, as far as the statistics are concerned, if you really are favoring the more mathematical side of things for Sentinels, they are 3-1 throughout their run last week playing on Split. They only did not play this map in the round of 128, and that one loss was to Gen G again, where who knows how seriously they were taking things. But even with that, you know, caveat at the end of their run last week, 76% win rate defensively as they played on this map, and that will obviously be a consideration at some point in time, but for now, it's all about what can they do on the offense as they get things going here.
The big thing for me so far is that Sam is going to be staying on to the Reyna. It's actually odorous on the Race. They're going to be giving up the Jet. Def's still on the Killjoy, so we're wondering if that was going to be Cypher. Nope, not the case so far. Dignitas is going to be bringing Sick back onto the Sage as expected.
Shazam has walked into the top side of B Tower, has dealt with the alarm bot. There's only a nanoswarm there, and that's going to be pulled out. Sidestepping away from the turret, that's going to be Sick who takes care of that, and all of a sudden, Sentinels are going to have to quickly rotate through. Here's the fortified wall play, and a headshot comes through for Sick, so even though he falls, the trades are decent, 2 for 2. Spike Carrier, though, dropping. Shazam going to commit to get into the low ground. That's going to forfeit over some pretty key positions on this potential retake, as Sentinels, they do have Psalm playing from the back, and oh boy, Shazam, we'll pretend like we didn't just watch that. As he gets taken down, Psalm will convert onto a third, and a quick defusal will come through as Dig will be able to find a way to get things going quickly here defensively.
Yeah, really good start for Dig here, especially for Sam, who's now 4 out of 6 on towards the Empress as well. Triple kill to get the ball rolling early. We did see Sentinels, you know, get multi-frags across Super and Sam. I reiterate myself in that is in terms of where some of the early pressure came from. So they get to rely on that again. Sentinels, rather Dignitas, get to kind of play into the very minor defensive advantages for a map like Split. And for Dig now, this is where Sam can really start to get the snowball momentum going a little bit further. 5 SMGs coming on through. If Sam gets another kill in an orb or a kill in a defuse, we'll be seeing a very early Empress soon.
Oh, for sure we will. But now Sentinels trying to make their second round come through again, not investing too much into upgrading weapons. A lot of ghosts that are still in the mix. Now, pardon me, as I'm getting a little confused off our names in the background, still backwards here. It's Dignitas that would have the ability to purchase up. My apologies. But once again, you've already got Sick who's walked on the B tower. This is a very interesting playback for Dig, as they're just allowing Sentinels to take these high ground positions and then playing for retakes.
Smoked off over towards the stairs room as well. So Dig playing very far back, like you mentioned. They are going to be able to at least put a smoke over towards B main. That's right in time, though. This is the early 1v1, though. Dapper gets the kill into Odorous. That's going to be one SMG delivered over towards the side of Sentinels. Dapper's going to clean up. Multiple players trying to come up the ropes currently, but they're taking a lot of damage. Look at the HP bar for Sentinels.
Yeah, a little SEAL Team 6 play off the double ropes, but Def does well to find a couple. Saul was able to get another, and now you see the spike right in front of his feet. 3v2 situation in favor of Dig, and Superman will find Sick trying to lurk behind. So now it's just down to one nice snapper there for Solomon. Dignitas will clean things up defensively, and now go up very quickly 2-0. Beyond that, though, Solom has earned a very early Empress if he so chooses to use it.
Yeah, 5-0 so far on the scoreboard there. Dig 2-0 up, like, as you would expect, versus the anti-Eco. Sentinels, though, did make it at least somewhat costly Early kills coming in, you see Sig finding a little bit of value on towards the Sage, the heal coming in to heal his arms, but has been nerfed in recent patches, so the heal not quite as strong. It will be a few rebuys in terms of Stingers coming out for Dignitas, Sentinels, full rifles, and now we're ready to potentially get one on the board for Sen.
Big, look at this, different play already for Dig. 5-man stack through mid. Dark cover and a boombot. Will you anticipate all this energy coming through? The flashpoint will free up, but there's no kills behind this. Salma's trying to play aggressive, but the paranoia's gonna keep him locked into place. Def finds one kill, but the trades are good, and the slow orb will mean that this Empress is gonna go nowhere. Beautiful dismiss, the healing will come through. Psalm keeping the play alive. Vault line now also reaching over, and it's just down to Psalm for a 1v3. Stuck between literally two players. Here's one coming out of the side of sewers. And he might get an angle, but Shazam locking things down will find the kill, and you gotta admire the creativity, but Sentinels, they back away, and they punish completely.
And Sam and Super need to try and isolate at least one kill there. You saw Sig trying to keep himself alive. I think the slow orb actually ends up doing massive, massive value. Sam barely even gets the first kill to refresh the Empress and dismiss away, but still stuck in the corner of Ramen there. Does end up being that Dignitas can't quite find enough kills. I do like the early Empress usage there. Can't get a gun though. Sun doesn't pick up a rifle on the floor, gets trapped. Has one layer available, but doesn't find the opportunity to use it. Now Sentinel will bring it back.
Sinatra, he's gonna take an aggressive peek, find one, and just barely deal with the boombot in his face. Now the hit shell's coming through. Sinatra really feeling feisty. Def will put him down, but a lot of damage was exchanged, and Dapper would have loved to have that one back. That was a free kill for him, and he's going to allow Def to stay alive, but very marginally. Only about one shot left for his health, but does have the ability to play passive and maybe try to drop a lockdown if he feels the need to.
This is the kind of thing that Dignitas need to adapt to. Sentinels are one of the fastest teams that we've seen in North America. Not going to waste a lot of time. They're going to get into action fairly quick. Sinatra, early pick. The trade is decent. You see Def is on critical HP as well. And for Dig, they need to try and find out where Sentinels are. They have no B-Heaven control. Wall's going to come up, and now the hit's going to come in. Sam has to be the one to do the damage.
Psalm finds one. Hit's still going to commit over towards B. Psalm is going to make sure no exits go through B main. The only place not currently being watched is up top at B tower. Lockdown is going to be committed for this. And this is all going to funnel players over to Psalm's direction, but he gets tagged up down to 6 HP. Double peek about to come through, and he's not going to find any kills. The exit is good for Sentinels. The round's still very well in play for them, but this is the problem. The spike is going to be triggered, and Zombs has to go. Just to check. He finds one, and Shazam able to help out. My goodness. Beautiful pinch coming through for Sentinels, but again, credit the fact that Psalm was taken down early on that attempt to exit away from the site to allow Sentinels a chance.
And that could have been different if Psalm gets another kill there, dismisses away and keeps things interesting in favor of Dignitas, slowing Sentinels down. That would have been a potential really big round for Dignitas to be able to pull through via the Reina of Psalm, but doesn't have a lair available. Very critical HP, can't quite convert a kill over, loses control of B main, despite getting a very early kill over towards B lobby. Now Dignitas over towards a 5 upgraded pistols and what will be the eco. Let's see if they can do something with the Sheriffs. We did see them win with Sheriffs on Haven. They'll need to do so again.
Boombot just to clear things mid-map. Sinatra with a couple of taps just to see if maybe he can find a lucky headshot. Nothing will happen. Def is the player who is going to be sitting mid-map with what looks to be just the Sheriff. It was a triple hit coming through Dignitas over towards A ramps just to see if they could maybe find a trade. But nothing will be there. So now all these members defensively will stack mid-map and see if they can help out Def, who's about to be threatened. Supa also dropping, and now B's wide open, but Def finds one kill. That's actually valuable. Shazam cannot play. He has to try to guard this weapon and find the trade. And now that that job is done, he'll re-intend to focus over towards B tower. Back will offer a trade, but it's still a 3v2 and bomb down for Sentinels.
One player alive here, Sam. Doesn't have a gun upgrade. Slow orb's going to be super effective as well. At this rate, at least some more damage would be excellent for Sam, but we'll need to try and locate where the members are. Knows that one is close to ropes. The Sheriff Barrel is going to betray him there as well. Sinatra will easily clean up the kill, find a nice gun upgrade in terms of the pistol, and that is going to be Sentinels 3 alive. They even have the Resurrection in their play as well. Nearly 5 ultimates. 1 round up so far in this best of 3.
Full gun round coming up here for Sentinels and Dignitas in round number 6. The But the problem here for Dignitas is you've got a Showstopper, you've got a Neural Theft, and a Resurrection that can all be utilized this round. Would be great if they could find a way to get this Sage off the table quickly, but with Sick holding onto the spike, likely you'll just have the Sage playing passively behind all of this. Fault line will come through. That will slow things down just a touch. The Boombot's still gonna get through. The Aftershock is here, but it will split this offense in two pieces. Sinatra immediately calling for the Showstopper, completely blinded up, looking for someone to throw this at. It might not have an opportunity, and he's gonna get caught from behind. This is a brilliant first kill for Def. The spike goes down. Wall will come up and be fortified to block the defensive side at spawn, but for Dignitas, you've at least got numbers to work with here.
And Sinatra may have overcommitted there as well. Notice the body is very deep. That means there will be no resurrection. Sick can't quite get control of B Heaven. Currently, a lot of players for Dignitas still alive, trying to take control of Elbow. Flash is going to come on through, and more kills online for Dignitas. There will be a trade, but Def and Odorous will bring it down to a 4 versus 1. Critical HP for Def, but even if he could do something, would need to try and survive, and he will get cleaned up too. So, despite Sentinels getting a very nice and early tank on towards A, they get these sites very quickly. But Dignitas this time will have a nice retake.
Well, look, just go back to why that spike gets planted so aggressively in the first point. They were looking for Sinatra to take control of the A tower. They were trusting that the Showstopper was going to be enough to win a kill and then stay alive. There was no exit strategy there for Sentinels outside of the fact that they would have high ground control and they would be able to read where Dignitas's pinch or retake was going to come through. The fact that they don't get that opportunity means that Dignitas can flood from the top, they can pinch around Elbow and just straight in, and Sentinels just could not quite respond to it in time. So 3-3 we go, and Dignitas, I won't say lucky to have that round, but they're obviously going to be feeling very good about being able to pull that back, considering that they dealt with the Showstopper as well.
Yeah, and this is why I say maybe Sinatra overcommits there. You could choose to just not go into the Showstopper. I know it hurts. It's a total waste of an ultimate, but staying alive and keeping the chance of winning the round alive probably a little bit more important here. Sick is going to put up the wall over towards B. It's going to be mostly a fake. And that's kind of the problem with playing Sage currently, is the very early wall. The HP is very low as well, so it instantly breaks. And they lose Sinatra early, and Death is going to follow as well.
But they do commit a couple of members for Dignitas to be on top of this B site. So even though it's a 3v4, you're going to take the From the Shadows spike play directly to A. But this is not a safe plant yet. You need to get control of A tower first. That task is left to Shazam, who's got a lot of traps to deal with. There's Alarm Bot, there's Nano Swarms, and now the retake for Dignitas defensively is going to be here. Zoms has to find at least one. He does well, but isn't able to get this second. Resurrection's going to come through safely over towards A ramps to make it the 3v3, but the spike is down.
Sentinels have to take control of Link currently, and that is where Odorous is coming from. They have Heaven control, they're spamming on through. Odorous tagged up, but still alive for now. Sam, by the way, has a bit of an angle, will find that kill, and now this is where things get interesting. Dig also have another ultimate here to play with. Rolling Thunder is up, 17 seconds, and Sentinels don't have players alive. Shazam needs to bring it home. Must get the kill here.
10 seconds left.
To Makalov to keep it alive. Has to do so instantly. Makalov's trying to waste some time, and it's going to have to waste enough time to make sure that Sentinels can't plant.
Makalov dancing with his partner there, which was that middle information kiosk window board thing. And he's able to essentially elude Shazam for long enough to clean up 4 kills. So now Dignitas in a great spot. You're 4-3 up defensively. You still have a Rolling Thunder and a lockdown that you feel like ideally you would love to use in separate rounds just for potential retakes or hold-offs, but you would see possibilities of those being combined as well to really punish Sentinels if they get over-aggressive and they stack.
Speaking of getting overly aggressive, maybe Sentinels want to go for a fast one again. Blazestorm out and ready. Sinatra in. Nice and deep too, but it's Sick going down first, and Sinatra will follow. So 3 versus 5 now. Dignitas have slowed things down.
And I don't know, for my taste, this is just a bit over-ambitious for Sentinels. You're trying to catch some members of Dignitas off guard. As, to be fair, they have been playing very passive in previous defensive rounds, but the problem is they're still holding angles, and you give away 2 kills, one on either side of the map. It makes life difficult for the rest of your squad. So now you're on to Shazam, really, that has to do it all. 2v4, he's already found 1 kill with the Bladestorm. Has an opportunity to maybe try to play for a second, but holding this angle is Odorous, and it's going to come down to who sees who first, and what about that? Shazam just goes a bit wider than Odorous was anticipating, so now a 2v3 in this round is much more doable.
And they're working their way over towards B as well. That's exactly where Zoms is making his way up in. Sam is hanging out. Maybe starting to sense that the rotation is coming on through. They would have called that Shazam. Shazam went over towards ropes. He is in vents over towards tower now. As an angle potentially on towards Sam, who gets a kill. Shazam needs to get this kill as well, but it'll be Sam for 3, shutting down Zombs, shutting down anything coming through from Sentinels, and I believe it was Sam that actually got the kill on the Sick early on as well. So for Sentinels trying to recover from a 3v5 deficit, Shazam is going to get a couple of kills, but not enough for Sentinels to get their round win.
Force Spy coming out right now for Sentinels here in round number 9. Spectre with full armor, a couple of Phantoms with just light armor. And the better news here for Dig is not only do you win that round, but you do it so convincingly you didn't have to spend a single ultimate. So now there's a big advantage brewing for the rest of this half for Dig to try to take this half. Oh, you would love to see maybe 8-4, if not better. Slow Orb came through, and it nearly was able to punish one. That was Odorous, who was playing a bit aggressive, but he's able to back away with only a small amount of damage.
The Sentinels have played this round much slower as well. They're not rushing through. They're taking a little bit more time. Not even dashing off the paranoia coming through from Zoms onto B-Heaven either. 3 players here for Dignitas. And again, a reminder of the ultimates there as well. Rolling Thunder available, Lockdown, all great for the retake. But I think with Dignitas, they're not going to allow the take to even come through. Wall's going to come down, but we know how brittle that wall is early on. And Dignitas are ready for any action on B.
Showstopper out. Odorous will spend it. Not going to find much with this. Psalm is here with him, though. And as the wall will, again, come fortified, there's an opportunity maybe for Sentinels just to rush through this. But Odorous is already playing a tight corner. Psalm has joined him on the low ground in the site itself. And Superman is now also here. So pretty heavy defensive stack, 35 seconds. And they deal with the Lurker of Dapper mid-map. That will likely be about the rest of this round, pending something miraculous from Sentinels. But with only 25 and a Force Spy, this is looking like it's got to be a save.
Yeah, Dignitas have really played this one quite nicely. They've trapped Sentinels rather completely. And that's not even considering the massive ult advantage here. 12 seconds remaining. It will be the save, like you said here, for Sentinels. A slow round that doesn't get them anywhere, and this is where they feel a little bit more trapped in terms of the strategy part. They tried to go fast on a previous round. They get punished heavily. They lose 2 nearly instantly. Try to play this one a lot slower, and they just get grinded out by Dignitas, who rotate appropriately to where they need to be. Dignitas are looking very strong now on the split defense, so if there's ever an opportunity for Dignitas to bring a map back, I mean, this is where things look great, but we've also been here on Haven, where it also looked really good for Dignitas. The Sentinels still came through 5 and 7, despite it looking very Dignitas-favored. That's what Dignitas need to try and prevent this time around.
So it's going to be the 2 Phantoms that are held on to. A Stinger, a Ghost, and a Frenzy purchased behind it to try to give a little extra firepower for Sentinels. But this is a tough offensive round that's in front of them. Not just because of the weapon disadvantage, but again, there's still the Empress, the Lockdown, the Rolling Thunder that's available for Dig on the D. Aggressive utility being thrown out towards A ramps, nothing going to come of it. And once again, here's Sentinels in a familiar place as they've just walked on the B tower. And a Tailwind will be used trying to see if there's anyone holding the backside stairs, but nothing will come of it. A wall will be used to make sure that this top side of B tower will stay safe, and here comes the execute.
And this is going to be another free plant. I mean, Sentinels a few times now on both maps that we've seen so far. Sometimes you just get onto site and no one's really going to be home here. I do believe Dignitas might want to ult this one, and that's going to be good for Sentinels, who, on a round that they're not expected to win, are going to force out ultimates. Getting this resource out is going to be important. Lockdown coming through, and now this is where Dignitas think about whether the lockdown's going to be enough. It's been destroyed, and possibly now the Rolling Thunder has to be played.
How did you let that happen again if you're Dig? This is a big opportunity. Sentinels, they've killed a lot of time on this potential retake. They're seeing a number of members in the back, and the Stinger is good at this range. So is the Frenzy. They're not sure what went through. And oh my goodness, Sentinels. Not only do they get out of the eco, not only do they get the plant down, but it's flawless, and they take out a Lockdown with it.
It's 2 rifles, and Zoms doesn't even have full armor walking into that round. They had a Ghost, a Stinger, and a Frenzy, and they completely dismantled Dignitas' chances of coming into a retake. Makalov dies on the retake opportunity as well, so no Rolling Thunder gets to be played. The Lockdown, like you mentioned, is destroyed. Sentinels get a free plant over towards B. We talked plenty about the fact that if Sentinels have all 5 alive in a post-plant, it's tough. I mean, Dignitas did quite a lot there to dismantle that one. And for Sentinels, they're going to win a round that they were not favored to win, and that is going to be a big momentum shift.
Starting to feel a little bit like deja vu here again in map number 2. Sentinels winning rounds that they've got no business winning. They're starting to drain out the resources of Dig, and there's potential with this opening kill now onto Psalm for maybe a 5th round here. Showstopper gonna come through. Zom's another kill in front of him. It's a Sinatra making his play up top. Throws it just behind Odorous, but the kill is still there regardless. Def and Odorous will at least find a couple of kills to keep things relatively even, but the problem here is that Def has an operator for this retake. Rolling Thunder is going to be committed. A bit puzzling. Dapper stays alive through it. Dom's able to find one. It's just down to Makalov. 1v2 situation. He deals with the spike carrier. Now all the paranoia is going to come out, but Makalov cannot get back to safety, and Sentinels again take a round, and we're looking at 6-5 going into the last round of the half.
Personally, for me, I don't mind the Rolling Thunder coming into play. The Dignitas know that they have to do something a little bit more to bring this round back up, and they tried to isolate Dapper. They tried to prevent the spike from being picked up. There was a decent effort from Dignitas, considering they managed to drop the spike on the floor over towards B Heaven. Couldn't quite hold on to numbers or control Makalov, the last one alive. Gets flashed in a 1v2. Can't quite win it. And Dignitas are slowly letting this one slip away. Now, they can still get 7 and 5, but I think Sentinels might even be favored for the 6 and 6.
Boombot value for Sinatra again. Able to get away. Boombot in response nearly connects, but not able to fully get any damage done. So now you're looking at the rest of this round to pan out in what could actually be a 6v4 because you have a resurrection available. Shazam finds another pick. That's a baby tag, nowhere for him to go. Fortunate he even finds one kill. But the resurrection is going to be there right again. So now 5v2 and Sentinels are looking to tie this half up.
Now this is the exact definition of Sentinels having their cake and eating it too. They get killed through the smoke over towards mid. Rez comes into play. They destroy the boom bot. They get Superman down. Does this even count as a flawless? I don't know. If Sentinels have 5 alive, they technically could lose one. And so the game decides it's not going to be a flawless, but I mean, it's 5 alive. Sentinels 6 and 6 here, and I believe we're at a point where it was 6 and 3, Alan, and we thought, okay, Dignitas, we could have had that.
Well, we're going to take just a small pause while we fix some audio things on our side. We'll be back in just a small moment. The players will pause the game. We'll be bumping back into the second half of Split in just 1 second. Don't go anywhere. We good, Griff? Do we need to do a test of any kind?
Here.
Okay. Just let me know. Okay, well, welcome back, everybody. Hopefully we've solved our problems and resolved everything causing us issues as we try to jump back into the second half. And you take a look at just those final 3 rounds on the scoreboard right there for Sentinels.
Yeah.
An incredible bounce back round that they win in a light buy, and then they string together round 11, round 12, and Sentinels are right back in this game, and they're going to their favored side. 76% win rate defensively back in the Ignition Series era.
And speaking of resolving issues here, I mean, we look at Sentinels early on. Let's talk about those first 9 rounds. I mean, at 6-3 at that point, you're thinking Dignitas should surely be able to lock this one in. And now resolving issues for Dignitas are going to need to be the ones cleaning their act up, walking onto their offense. This is still where they can get a lot done. Plenty of flashes on their team. I think it's going to be great for the attacking side. But like I said, Sentinels very favored on the defense as well. Especially for a player like Sick on the Sage. This is where the Sage can get a lot more value. Attacking Sage, the wall just melts instantly. It's not quite as decent. You can argue that defensive-wise, there are issues there. But so far, Sentinels have been getting away with still forcing the Sage. And I will use the term forcing in this current meta.
There.
And Sentinels kind of just getting away with so much. That's basically how I would summarize it for first half. Where, I mean, there are just so many rounds where it just looks like Sentinels don't really have business winning it, and then they do. I mean, the half in general, you could say, was kind of Dignitas favored for some time, and then Sentinels, they pull it in.
I mean, take a look at him. We talked about Def. He was essentially triple negative in our first map. He's now 12-9. So things for both sides that we can pull positives from so far. But at the end of it, it literally is a 50-50 tug of war. I mean, even in the fact that you saw 2 rounds in a row, 3 rounds in a row the other way, 4 rounds in a row, and then 3 rounds back. It's very kind of a streaky opening first half for us. We'll see if the second half will provide much of the same or maybe something different here, as Sentinels defensively will spread the map and really just essentially stack over towards A more than anything else. And similar circumstances here for Dignitas. Still a pretty even spread. Spike will be left in sewers, so they're going to be hunting for information here early.
Because they don't have a Cypher, by the way, it ends up being the Omen smoke from Super that has to cover the tracks for Dignitas on A. Oda is going to be jumping across towards ramps as well. 3 committed on the defense there for Sentinels. They are going to slowly think about moving players away, but Sig has confirmed at least 1 member over towards ramps.
And the early wall will be placed to block off the ropes room for a rotation up to tower. No more slow orbs potentially to be used either. So Dignitas, if they try to hit, it'll have to be pretty hot-handed through just the low ground or up through a ramp. So the rotation defensively actually might be more caught off guard by this than the actual offensive hit, simply because that wall is placed in a spot that will stop Sentinels from rotating through mid.
The other problem is Sentinels putting the wall up also means they acknowledge they don't have control over mid. You see the Sentinels over towards B Heaven. They don't know what's happening in mid right now. That's going to allow Dignitas to walk onto A mostly for free. The U-tool's been confirmed, and now Sentinels will try and get the rotation.
Left. Spikes down.
Superman will find first kill. Zoms, though, on his own in the back of the site, takes down 2, and Sinatra cleans things up in the connector for a 3rd. So numbers now for Sentinels. Sinatra doesn't really get the paint shells he was looking for. Wanted to bounce that into the back hallway, but kind of took a wonky bounce off and stayed too close, but still with that dapper for 1. Right clicks for Odorous are good on the first. That's an individual 1v1 he's been able to take. Trapwire comes through, deals with that. The shots are good. Now 1v1. Spike, about to get to halfway. Paint shells, nice bounce coming through. Not going to fully connect, though. Halfway coming out, trying to snap on over. Odorous down to 13 HP, and Sick will catch the angle. Plenty of time to finesse, and he will win the gunfight and take the pistol for Sentinels.
The problem there for Sentinels is they nearly gave that one away to Dignitas. I mean, Dapper goes for a fight there. Sure, you can say that Odorous was one that went for the swing, but this is when Sick is still going for the defuse, so it ends up being a 1v1 instead of a 1v2.
Yeah.
And Odorous nearly wins the second 1v1 against Sick as well, but it comes down to, in my opinion, Zoms getting the early kills and a bit of a deja vu from what we saw onto Heaven, that first pistol round, where Dignitas gets a very early rotation on towards the A point of that, the A side of that map, and gets a couple of players down. Zoms by himself just returns to, and once again, the solo anchor, when he's the last one alive, will just get a couple of kills, and that couple of kills give Sentinels the chance they need.
Spike once again left down towards Sewer. As Dignitas try to posture this time to the middle of the map, and there are Sentinels members here to deal with it. Sinatra first blood, Odorous tagged up heavily. Secondary peek, also unsuccessful. Nice shots from depth for one and a second. Okay, 3v3, 70 HP, gonna get an opportunity for one more. Flashpoint, brilliantly placed. That's gonna be a couple of weapon upgrades, and Dignitas and the NA are looking really solid as they've taken over B Tower and can probably just drop down freely to B, as Zoms is gonna have to wait for help before he can commit.
Talk plenty about Zoms in these kind of situations. He'll now need to really bring the goods in. And like I said, needs to wait for at least a little bit of help coming through from Heaven. There it is, Shazam, help in hand. Sam goes down. And for Dignitas as well, consider that Diff is on low HP. Consider that Makalov has been tagged up as well. This is still doable for either side.
Player remaining.
Oh, brilliant shots from Shazam, but he's taken down to 6 HP. But Zoms from the pinch. Makalov couldn't even get a shot off. And Sentinels still hold on. And they'll forfeit the back half of this defuse to Shazam, who will just be 2 orbs off, or 2 kills off, from grabbing his early Blade Storm.
Nearly let it slip again. I mean, consider that Sentinels did lose a few members early, but Shazam coming through Heaven. If he doesn't win the initial 1v1, if he doesn't get a couple of kills here to really help out Zoms, that would have been a very different situation. If Zom goes down before Shazam can really arrive on scene, again, that would have been a really difficult retake for Sentinels, but between the two of them, keep it alive, they keep it in play. And for Sentinels now, 5 rounds in a row if you consider the last 3 from the previous half as well. This is the important one though. Dignitas going to buy in, and this is the one that Dignitas want to win.
8-6 VR. Dignitas need to start getting things going offensively, and Sinatra might just walk right behind Makalov. He's got no idea. Oh, that's really tough. And now it's a Vandal instead of a Spectre. He sees the spike. So much information right here for Sinatra.
Oh,
and he
my
finds
God.
shots through the dark cover. Hello? He's got Psalm close by, but there will be the trade. You still have members that are playing aggressive in the middle of the map. Dapper is here. He'll find one, Sick another. We've got ourselves a 2v1 favoring Sentinels with more information that the spike has been dropped.
Yep, this is going to be tough now. Odorous is on the other side of the map. It's been walled off. He's going to walk into sewers. He'll see the wall come through, and he's going to play the time of it. He's going to wait for it to melt, and then somehow still have to navigate his way around 2 members, get a plant down, win the post-plant situation. You better believe this is going to be a super difficult situation, and spam through the smoke. 21 HP. It's not going to happen. Sick will be able to clean up the last kill there, and a couple of free rifles for Sentinels, and this is getting out of hand now. Sentinels on this defense are absolutely insane, and Dignitas failed to win their gun round. They give away their weapons, and they're going to have to eco.
Everything going wrong right now for Dignitas. They are going to have to be on something special for the rest of this first part of the second half. Third quarter, if you will, I suppose. And it's going to come down to 4 Sheriffs and a Spectre here for the 4th round in. The only bit of good news is the fact that they have gotten a couple of spikes planted, so they're not in a terrible position with their economy. You've got 2K plus really for everybody, but as we start to dig through this next round, Dignitas will have to find a way to at least make this a punishing round, as they cannot allow Sentinels' economy to start to snowball. So,
yeah,
as they start to come through, Avril, I think you're still with me to come back in, yeah?
Yeah. You see the situation now. Sentinels have Showstopper available as well. Sinatra's been doing super well. Just trying to find any opening they can. Wall is melted over towards A, or rather towards mid. Over towards A is going to be Storm, actually. He'll be trying to fire things up. Maybe bring a little bit of tension to false rotators towards him. Dignitas want to make a play happen over towards B. Let's see if they can do it.
Dapper, the first one up. Oh, and he actually looks up, and Depp will find a free kill. Now it's down to Sick. He can't find anything. Def for 2 1-taps. Sinatra's down to 5 HP. Oh boy.
Spike planted.
And now Def with a weapon. Not what you want. Alarm bot will go down. Nanostorm up top by the ropes, and Dignitas, they might just be able to walk away with a flawless eagle around his Sentinels.
Wow.
Are not going to have a chance to come through. Unbelievable from Dig.
This is happening again. This is what we saw on Haven, where Dig managed to get a lot of sheriff kills. It's insane. Dignitas now 4 versus 1. They have 2 ultimates that they could use if they really want to. They're not going to have to. Sentinels, surely Zoms is not going to be able to walk into this one safely at all. We'll try and keep this Vandal alive. And Dignitas off the back of Def. Yeah, we'll get Makarov. That's a bit of tax there for Zoms. And I mean, look, you can make the argument, I did mention as well, Zoms has been able to get a couple of kills, even facing it up against a lot of pressure on the defensive side of things. If Zoms was on B, maybe he gets the kills required, but for the side of Sentinels, they lose 2 very, very quickly. Def, a couple of headshot connections on the Sheriff, walks through, picks up a rifle, walks into B alley as well, cleans up a 3rd kill, and Dignitas are just on a roll on the Sheriff somehow. That's a great run for them, and one they sorely needed to stay competitive on this map.
And for Sentinels, you just think, who cares about the utility coming through? Just play for the kills. The last thing you can allow them to do is to get onto Site 3. Def does him one better. He's 18 and 12 now. Talk about a huge bounce back. Again, he was 7 and 21 in the first map. 18 and 12 here in the second. Incredible regain from him. Shazam now in the Bladestorm. He's actually to take down Odorous and immediately back away as, again, contesting it was Def, but the first blood well appreciated here for Sentinels.
Dixel ult to play through. That is a really unfortunate miss from Shazam. The right click is going to go completely wide. And Def is just padding the stats, currently top of the leaderboard for the Dignitas side of things. I believe that's 19 kills now. Nearly dropping the 20. Not common on a Killjoy. It's Dignitas, no. 4v4. And by the way, that 1 kill over towards Sentinels where Shazam went down. I don't know that Sick can res that one either. It's a little bit too aggressive. He'll have to try and do that one on a retake, and a retake is what it's going to come down to unless Zoms can work some magic again.
Don't rule him out. Opportunity. Coming through the dark cover are multiple members. He's able to stay alive through the flashpoint. And this is possible. Almost gets the lineup. The lockdown would have been potential to be taken away as well, but now Sinatra will have to back out. Dignitas will get the plant down, but there's a resurrection available, which could potentially come through onto Zom sitting back screens. You also have a showstopper. So are you able to get into a position to utilize this in your Sentinels? Here comes the play through the back. It's going to be Sinatra up top. There's the resurrection. Sinatra trying to clear up some space. Long range bomb. Not going to find anything. Been able to find one, but Sinatra for 2. Rolling Thunder coming out. But there's the paint shells. That's going to stop the push through. And it gets an elimination. Sentinels, they break through way too easily. They get the defuse, and now they're up 10-7.
And this is what I'm talking about here. Sentinels just get the roll onto the site on this retake. The smoke covers the resurrection on towards Zoms. He ends up being the one of the last 2 members surviving there as well. And Sinatra completely outplays Makarov there. Gets the initial take over towards ramps. Rolling Thunder in response, and the paint shells perfectly landing straight onto Makarov's face. Dignitas is going to feel cheated on that round. That should have been a round where Dignitas felt very confident about their chances walking in. Early plant as well. Great post-plant setup in general. Sentinels, though, just making sure they confirm a nice lead. 3 rounds still ahead as they get double digits here. And for Dignitas, they are definitely sweating again. This is 1 map down. Dignitas need to win split to go to bind.
Flawless execution for Sentinels, though. You double commit to get the res, you clear out space with the showstopper, and then from there, you just let Sinatra do his own thing. So a must-win round, you feel like, here for Dig. You lose this one, money will not be great. At least not for everybody. And they're going to have Supermen just lurk over through mid while everybody else stacks towards B main. There is a camera aggressively placed in garage here for Dapper. And he's active with this. He's going to find information on one player, holding it open, just going to give pings. Does he see more is the real question. And so far, this will not be enough information to allow him to make the call that, yes, we need more defensive members. And fortunately, you do get Def to take care of the cam as they try to set up for an execute.
Here we go. Cage is in now as well. See if they can hold on to this one. Odorous needs to find something. The showstopper. They get killed through the cages. This is going really poorly for Dignitas currently. Sentinels 3 and 3.
30
Will
seconds
still be a
left.
heal available. I believe it does go on to Sick himself. And now, can they stop the plant? They won't be up to it, but Def is down. Top fragger so far for Dignitas out of action. And Dig are stuck on site. They cannot get off.
Sick though, fault lined up. Dark cover will save his life for
player
now.
remaining.
Superman though equal to the task. Zoms for a 1v2. Has information on one player. There's the kill. Now a 1v1. Him versus Makalov. Out of the dark cover. Zoms wins it. And Sentinels, they're going to be up 11-7. And Dignitas, I don't know what they're going to be able to afford coming into the next round.
It's always situations where Sentinels, they're on site as Dignitas start to roll on through. They're getting kills through smoke. They're getting kills through cages as well. Sentinels then on the rest of the retake. Zoms has been so clutch in these situations. Consider how many late round wins. Due to the fact that Zoms is still alive, he's doing a lot on that retake. I mean, considering retakes here, look at this round summary. In this half, it's 4 defuses, so it's not like Dignitas haven't been able to plant. It's the fact that they plant, but Dignitas on the retake have been so successful.
Yeah, the post-plant setups have just been not what you want to see. And maybe you attribute some of that to, again, the lack of experience in tournament play on Split. Sentinels just look like they're able to decimate through and kind of dissolve these post-plant setups, if you want to call them that, a little bit too easily. But this time, I guess, you know, the money's not great for Dig, but it's still actually not great for Sentinels either. So we've got essentially an even round coming out. And with the potential of an Empress, there's an opportunity here for Dig to try to bounce back into this late stage of the second half.
Yeah, but they do need to give Sam the actual gun. Sam's only working on a Stinger right now. If they want to use the Empress properly, they kind of have to drop a gun over. They have to swap between Makalov, Superman, Odorous. One of those 3 players has to drop the rifle and swap themselves over to the Stinger. Early wall coming through from Sick, by the way, on towards A. That means they want to go for an early rotation. Sinatra sensing blood in the water right now. Pink shells are gonna miss. He needs to get a kill. He can't do so. And 2 quick ones for Dig.
Spike planted.
And now you really don't even need to use the Empress. You're in a 5v3. Sentinels do have Shazam up top to open up an opportunity if they want to go for a retake, but as you look at the minimap, it's not going to be a commitment. Again, we talked about the fact that, yes, this half has been going better for Sentinels, but with all the plants that have come through, there has just not been a lot of cash for Sentinels. And now as Shazam falls to death, this is actually a big bounce-back moment for Dig. It was a must-win round, and they do it flawlessly with the plant and not having to spend the Empress. This was a perfect storm here in round 8, or number 19 for Dignitas.
Yeah. Sam and Def, by the way, walked into this round with only SMGs. They get free rifles now. Def even wins the 1v1 that we saw versus Shazam, I believe, over towards mid. So they're definitely being able to walk quite comfortably into this round. This is a very important round in terms of momentum, confidence, everything, all of the above here, because for Dignitas, they've lost plenty of rounds in this half, on this map, where they felt like they were probably ahead. They felt like they had a good chance to win. The Sentinels are able to just kind of edge them through. And that would have looked like, look, if Dignitas walk on to B again, and Sentinels, someone like Sinatra holding the close angle, well, at least tucked into default plant, he gets a couple of kills. That would have been another situation with Sentinels. It doesn't really matter. Look, they might be in a really rough spot, holding anchor on towards B. Dignitas rush in, and somehow Sentinels get a bunch of kills. This time it doesn't happen, and that's when Dignitas get a hit.
Opportunity for a 9th round, potentially for Dignitas. Salma's going to get aggressive. Spike will be left just outside the ropes, towards sewer, over towards A main. And there are members that are mid-map that are likely to be able to rotate behind and pick this up if they feel the favor going towards the A site. Similarly so, though, if these members for Dig find some information and good utility up the middle of the map, you could track back, pick the spike up, and then meet these players in mid. So it just comes down to which decision do you want to make. If you're Dig and Zoms, mid-range, headshot to Psalm, no Empress potential now for Dig.
And this would have been a great round for Empress as well. It's one that Sentinels could potentially get 12 on. Possible 1v1 here. Does get one by Odorous, so bring one back through. No resurrection yet to be in place. Sick is too far away from it. Now going to wall off B as well. It's going to allow them to safely rotate over, and they're going to need the numbers.
Zoms gets some damage, but he actually doesn't confirm a kill, so now he has to retreat back into the safety, or at least you would think the safety of the site itself, but that's a one-dimensional angle that does get punished. Dignitas in a 4v3, but 2 members severely injured. And Sentinels are not going to be hard-pressed as far as the journey needed to be taken to get onto the site for a retake. Sick, up top, not going to be expected. Finds the first. Dig is essentially trapped. And again, what is the post-plant setup? It's just not convincing at all. All of these kills come through on individual gunfights. That cannot happen if you're Dignitas. Once again, a post-plant setup going awry, and Sentinels, they will get the easy defuse.
Yep, and Dignitas just can't quite find the kills there. The last 2 players alive with Dig. Even when it was a 4v3, they lose 2 in that 4v3. Down to the last 2 players. Those are the low players on minimal HP. So for Sentinels, it ends up being a fairly easy cleanup. I mean, Sentinels walk into this one. They really shouldn't be able to win that round in that situation. I mean, you can't really count them out considering how many defusers they have, considering how many situations they've gotten the successful retake. But yeah, I kind of agree there. Dignitas in these post plants just have not found the success. Even if they have a player advantage, even if they get at least 1 member off site there, they're still stacking probably a little too many members on site. They can't quite get the counter trades. And it's just a bit of a farce. I mean, it's 4v3, and the 4 alive for Dignitas can't even get 1.
Look, for me now, you look at this next round coming through, and Dignitas, you essentially have to hold this lockdown for after you get the spike down. That has to be your post-plant success, because there has been very little instances where they have found successful post-plant situations. I want to say the only 2 times the spike has gone off are 2 rounds that Sentinels have saved. So I think for my mind, you have to save this lockdown just for the post-plant. So now for Dignitas, how do you open up sites? Because you've got the Empress to be potentially used. Spike is still lingering outside mid-market, lingering towards B, but this is just a little bit too tense for Dig. You would love to use this lockdown to open up rather than save a post-plant.
And just by the way as well, you look at the round summary there, it's 7 out of 8 total rounds in this half. Dignitas have been able to plant. But only 2 times has that led to a detonation. Like you said, it comes down to the fact that Dignitas have overwhelming numbers advantages. I'm not talking about 4-3. I'm talking about Zoms being the only one alive 1v4, so it goes for a save. Here we go. The Empress will be popping out. Sinatra paint shells out and ready. Be in a position to stop this one.
Beautiful little right click, underhand shot. Slow orb going to be placed down. Sinatra, he wants to push forward. He wants to try to find an elimination, but Dignitas have bailed away. The problem here is the fact that on the long rotation through spawn is the Empress, so this is likely going to expire. Everything is got to be down to Makalov and Def. And if Def falls, there's no lockdown. He's fortunate to find the first kill. Lockdown will immediately be called, but this is still really early, and Sentinels are going to be able to take this time to get Sinatra back over to potentially play for a retake. But they do catch out a couple of kills immediately, and I don't know, Sentinels, I think you just needed to wait for numbers here. It's going to be just down to Sinatra in a 1v4, and I just don't know if you really play for this.
They get a very early kill. Def doesn't need to challenge that one, so he'll give his life over to make the 1v3 possible. Can it happen? I mean, Sinatra is a player that can certainly do it. The problem here is also that Makalov holds on to a Rolling Thunder, making things a little bit more difficult for Sentinels to be able to go for a proper 1v3. And this is part of the issue, by the way, for Dignitas, why some of the postmans don't go well. You really have to get Makalov offsite. This ends up being a round that's inconsequential because it's a 3v1, but consider if Sentinels had more numbers there. Makalov is so deep on site, how is he supposed to use a Rolling Thunder properly? If he gets offsite, then Rolling Thunder's back in, like he does in a previous round that we did see, that's a much better situation. Yes, it was Sinatra outplaying Makalov in that situation as well, where Makalov tries to come with the Rolling Thunder. We all remember it, dies the paint shells in a hilarious fashion, but I think Dignitas have to work on stuff like that. Really comes down to Def for that particular round. Def wins the 1v1 over from Elbow. He puts the lockdown into play as well. Gets another kill, stays alive for the most part, delivers himself over to Sinatra, but the 3v1 is still too overwhelming.
5-man stack for Dignitas over towards A. A lot of utility being thrown in. Sick gets caught. I don't know. It seems a bit questionable to try to commit right here. And how about this? There's going to be a Rolling Thunder to try to open space up. Shazam does fall topside A tower. Player on the site is after he will fall. Def for a 3rd kill in the round. And with that, also potential for the spike plant. That will lead to almost another lockdown in what was, 2 rounds ago we used it. So
yeah,
good value here for Dignitas as they'll likely convert their 10th round.
It was just the last one, actually, that Def put the lockdown in place. Sinatra has a rifle alive. We'll look to try and save this one if possible. But he's in between a lot of Dignitas members right now that can at least somewhat afford to chase him down. Sentinels are going to have to eco after this one. Dignitas can actually pick up 11. We could go to overtime again. It will require Dignitas to play perfectly the following 3 rounds. And Sentinels, their chance to maybe still confirm 13 relies upon Sinatra getting out alive for at least 1 hero rifle in the next round.
He's actually moving quickly right into the line instead of Odorous. So Sinatra, you saw for a moment there, bottom right, he only had 500 credits left in capital D colon right there, Odorous, with the insulting paint shells at the end. But yeah, this is going to have to be a light buy coming through for Sentinel. So potential and expectations would lead towards an 11th round here for Dig, but those expectations might have to be stilted just for a moment because there is a resurrection, there is a blade storm, so there is potential for Sentinels to still fight this round back, even though they're running eco.
Speaking of resurrection, by the way, Sick dying very early last round means that there's no resurrection opportunity. He was actually 6 out of 7, but you assume there's a chance to maybe get an orb or a counter trade to then get the res in. That's how Sentinels have been winning some of these retakes as well. It's going to come down to Shazam, I think, the critical member here to keep things alive via Blaze Storm. Dapper down to 8 HP, needs a heal. You can see that 6 on his way over for this heal. So Sentinels are going to try and keep this alive in terms of the eco plays. They will need to try and isolate a kill somewhere, though, on minimal weapons.
Pretty dead silence falls over Split here in the mid-round. Minute 5 to play here in the round overall. A lot of energy thrown over towards the middle of the map here for Dignitas.
Cover going out.
Stack for Sentinels defensively is towards the backside of the B tower stairs. And it looks like actually Dapper is going to maybe climb the ropes and join them up top. And for Dig, they're looking like they are primed to try to hit over towards B. They've got a potential post plant set up closer towards B main, maybe. But it's going to be down to how cleanly can you take this execute.
You should run.
Sentinels have kind of stacked this one. The lockdown gets played in, so very safe from Dignitas. We'll take a lot of chances here. This is going to allow Sentinels a bit of time to get the rotation, and Paint Shells is huge! Oh my god, the damage is definitely there for Sinatra. It's a 1-for-1 trade.
And not to mention the fact that the Killjoy ultimate will be shut down. Nice shots here for Odorous as he's able to find himself an elimination. Still a 3v2 situation in favor of Dig, but Sentinels, there's no reason to not go for this, so you likely see that this is going to be a pinch play coming out. Couple of pings trying to see if Zoms can find an opening pick. Paranoia comes through. Showstock, but also going to be committed. Doesn't find it a kill, but at least flushes Zoms out into the line of sight of Song. Just down to Sinatra, no kills there, but I think you're okay with that for Sentinels.
Yep.
You get rid of 2 ultimates here into what will be the final round that you need to try to secure, and there's no tools outside of the weaponry coming forward for Dignitas trying to send this to overtime.
Yeah, it's huge. I mean, you get 2 kills, you don't pick up any guns, but the 2 ultimates I think are really big as well. The fact that the lockdown gets played in, it's maybe overly conservative from Dignitas. I mean, Def doesn't need to use the lockdown versus an eco there. In fact, the lockdown actually gives Sentinel early warning. That's why you see the slow orb coming. That's why you see the paint shells as well. Dignitas might have been able to just pull through a sneaky one if they rush on towards B at the time that they did, but no lockdown in play, and now without the ultimates, things are going to look a little bit more rough, especially that they lose Def quite early. And by the way, the damage onto Shazam, it's going to get dealt up.
Again, it's just a wild card play that one of the first times it's in the operative been pulled out here on Split. It's already going to be made aware for Dig. Although they do still lose one member outside of B main, you at least know that Sentinels have an op over towards A, so you probably aren't going to see them try to hit that site anytime soon. Shazam has rotated closer towards A tower, which will allow him to rotate maybe over the middle of the map a little bit quicker, but still the fact of the matter is that this is fine if you're Dig. You would love to have a 5th member up, but at worst, you're dealing with a 4v4 over towards B as you figured that Shazam will likely be holding the operator still at A throughout the round.
Dignitas going to be exploring options here. Paint shells are going to come through. Def will even save his Tramp Wife from being destroyed there. So nice little micro play as Sentinels might want to start considering shifting members over. Dignitas are very much now committed over towards the site. It's going to come down to Sick. Sick needs to stay alive because he's got a resurrection.
Double slow orbs. That's actually a really good
30
fault line to come
left.
through, giving Superman a chance to battle up, even though he was completely hindered by the orbs. Odorous, hearing footsteps right above him. Gonna take a couple of pings. Resurrection's gonna come through for Sick. That's gonna be safe. No way to try to negate that. So 4v4 we stay. Shazam up top, watching Sick drop to the low ground. Also Boom up to clear some space. Sinatra with the operator for 1. Immediately channeled back, but Sick will find a follow-up kill. This down to a 3v2. Dignitas keeping things even. Can they hold? They need a post plant set up to hold strong. But Sinatra with the double. Just down to the 1v2. Paint Shell, Showstopper, both gonna come through, and the shot will not connect! Superman 1v1, but Sick able to win the battle, and Sentinels will take the 2-0, no overtime needed here. Dignitas will fall to the elimination match here in Group C.
Defenders win.
And ironically as well, Dignitas end up losing the fashion that we've been criticizing this entire half, which is to say, no issues planting for Dignitas so far, but in the post plants, they've not been successful. You can, on the opposite end as well, really compliment Sentinels on the retakes. So many successful retakes there. Sure, some of them did go awry, but for the most part, Sentinels coming out ahead there, keeping things very competitive. That first half really tells you a lot as well. 6-6. As a reminder, we started out 6-3 in the first 9 rounds in favor of Dignitas, but they couldn't quite send that one home. They couldn't quite wrap that one up and confirm a 7-5 and 8-4. All of those would have been really nice for them. And going over to the second half as well, pretty much a Sentinels' favored half there. So many successful rounds, and it ends up being a 2-0 in the favor of Sentinels. But I gotta say, not 100% comfortable.
No, definitely not. I mean, not as comfortable as we once used to attribute to the name Sentinels, which, again, I think just goes to show that the disparity between the Pop Flash Invitational to now is much wider than what we once knew. You know, throw out maybe the match versus Gen G if you want to, but regardless, a battle here between this first opening round here in Group C between Dig and Sentinels, but Dig will unfortunately fall, not see that second overtime, not see that third map that they needed, so they will be sent down to that elimination matchup. So Yinsu, as you rejoin us here, maybe like Avril said, a bit shakier here for Sentinels overall, but still a 2-0 is going to make you feel pretty confident in one way or the other.
True, but they don't make things easy for themselves, do they? They always have to take the hard way by the looks of things today, which isn't the Sentinels we're kind of used to pre-First Strike era. But before we talk about Sentinels a bit more, I wanted to just address that Killjoy. You know, Shift, you weren't a big fan of that Killjoy pick on Haven, and it feels like, you know, my boy Def, I have to give him a shout out because he is from the UK. He is the only person representing the UK, I think in the entire 128 teams we had. I believe he's definitely one of the only people from the UK in the closed qualifiers. But yes, it seems like he heard some of your grievances after that Haven game, and he absolutely popped off on that Killjoy on Split. What did you make of his performance after that one?
Yeah, I just want to back up to, I don't hate the pick on Haven. It was just the simple fact that that was not a performance that we categorize around Def playing a Sentinel. Again, his statistics when he was playing Cypher through the open qualifier weeks were incredible. They were one of the best Cypher stats that you could find throughout the opening matches that they played. So to come immediately in to play up against the caliber of opponent that Sentinels are, and then go triple negative, that's got to really hit you pretty hard in the feels. The good news is that he is able to bounce back in a major way. The problem then becomes the fact that Superman, who was incredible in the map number 1, isn't able to play a duelist. Maybe there's some consideration there, but not able to find as much favor in the backing round. So it's close overall, but I think, you know, as far as the resiliency, even in losing fashion for Dignitas, there are some really good things to take away from this series overall.
Now, before we move on, we do have some replays to show you guys. You know, this instant replay is brought to you by GoPuff, the official delivery partner of Nerd Street Gamers. Guys, don't forget to use the promo code NerdStreet when you sign up, and you'll get $4 off of your first order. You two, you know, watching these replays, what do Sentinels need to do going forward?
I think Sentinels have overall been pretty fine, actually. I think they dropped a few rounds uncharacteristically, maybe in the first half. The first halves of both maps were probably the shakier ones. I think the second halves have really started to come through, especially later on in the halves as well. I think if you look over across both Haven and Split, it's the end of the first half into the second half coming in that ends up being fairly decent. Looking over to Split specifically, they won the last 3 rounds of the first half. They won the first 3 rounds of the second half as well. That round 3 ended up being pretty huge. In fact, I believe that if it wasn't for the fact that Dignitas won another Sheriff Eco on that second half, I mean, this could have been a bigger blowout. This could have been a really rough situation for Dignitas. Been pretty impressed with Zoms, who we're seeing quite a lot on this replay, by the way. Anytime Zoms is anchoring a site and Dignitas are kind of rushing in there, Zoms is able to get a few trades, so that's been really difficult for Dignitas to deal with. So he's been one of the more impressive players. Sinatra obviously playing up quite well. I just think some of the early plays did get punished. So to answer your question there, Yinsu, when we see some of the early rushes from Sinatra and co on the Sentinel side of things, I mentioned Sinatra because he is at fault for some of those early deaths. You do see Sentinels kind of down early 3 and 5, and that's always a situation that they find difficult to come back from. They do make it interesting by at least bring it down to, you know, they might get a few kills, come back to a 1v2, but making themselves... like you mentioned at the start of this one, not really doing themselves any favors in terms of making it hard for them to get the win.
Look,
Yeah,
I'll just say this one last thing, you know, about Dignitas is that their offense throughout this entire series was great until there was a post-plant situation that was required. I mean, we talked about it a lot at Split. They got the spike down almost every single round. But the only 2 times that it actually detonated were in rounds that Sentinels were saving. So that's one thing that if you're looking to immediately change in the couple of hours you have between now and the elimination match, is you got to have some kind of a conversation, whether it's just on split or in your offense fully. What do we need to do to be more successful in our post plants? Because if there's even one or two more successful post plants for Dig, that's a totally different look for that entire series. It's not just the potential of 2 rounds. Some of those rounds that they lost were rounds that could have forced Sentinels to be on a more heavily ecoed round, and that could have been 2, maybe 3 rounds in a row. So that's my big thing for Dig. They look great offensively. Caveat, post-plant setups need some work.
They do have that knockout lower bracket round coming up in on the other stream, twitch.tv/NerdStreetGamers. But I also want to highlight that, you know, Sentinels aren't safe yet. They haven't qualified for anything yet, and they have to play Envy next in the upper final. And if they lose that one, they're right back in the losers bracket, and it feels like everything they've done so far against Dignitas might be a bit futile. But before we go into a break, I want to get you guys to really quickly go over who you think would come out on top between that Envy and Sentinels matchup.
Yeah, I'm actually leaning towards Envy so far, because Envy's performance so far over the course of the qualifier, considering that they won the open qualifier as well, they came in as first seed. Sentinels did struggle into that one. They dropped out in the quarterfinals. I mean, we can talk further about whether that was a meaningful game for them or not. This one definitely is. There's no excuse for Sentinels walking into the close qualifiers, and this went way too close. Maybe I'm, again, underplaying Dignitas a little bit. I think Dignitas also played really well to get that far. So, I mean, Dignitas in their lower bracket game versus Spot Up, I think I give that one over to Dignitas. But Envy versus Sentinels, I think Envy edge it out.
I've been on the Envy hype train for a while now. Even back when the Pop Flash series was going on, a lot of people had them top 5, top 4. They've been a top 3 team for me for a while. And then after their performance through the open qualifier, I think the conversation of potentially being a top 2, maybe even the best team in North America, is a valid one. Obviously, it's going to be coming down to what happens this upcoming matchup. But that is your perennial favorite from the Ignition Series era versus a team that has shown a lot of composure and a lot of adjustments. So it's going to be a very interesting qualifier matchup coming up.
Quick correction, Envy came second, not first. I do want to correct myself to that one, but point still stands. They made top 2, and I still favor them.
That's all right. Well, that is all of the Group C action we have for you today. But after the break, we will be bringing you the Slimy Boogerman versus Renegades from Group D. Don't go anywhere, guys. There is more Valorant on the way.